Change your station, change your life has become a catchphrase for Salt and Light Radio, a non-profit media apostolate that operates radio stations in southern Idaho. Through multimedia communications, their mission is to evangelize and teach the gospel of Jesus Christ with the fullness of the truth of the Catholic Church. They broadcast local programs as well as content from various sources across the United States, including EWTN, a global radio and television network that was founded by a spirited, faithful nun named Mother Angelica.
Well, I like to tell people two things that Mother Angelica, who is the foundress of EWTN, liked to say when she was still living, and that is that God doesn't call the qualified; He qualifies the called, right? But also, Mother Angelica likes to say that in order for God to do the miraculous, someone has to be willing to do the ridiculous. So I guess I was the one to do the ridiculous, yeah. When I was doing my day job about 9 years ago, back in, I was making some sales calls over near Boardman, Oregon, flipping through the radio dial, trying to find something to listen to in my car, and all of a sudden I heard the rosary being said on the radio. And well, even now it's not that common to hear the rosary said on the radio, except on our station. But anyway, I kept listening, and it turned out that the station was broadcasting from Walla Walla, my hometown where I grew up, and I was going to spend the night there with my folks that night anyway. And so when I took my mother out to dinner that night, she says, "Oh, you're listening to the Catholic radio?" And I said, "Yeah, what's up with the Catholic radio?" And she says, "Well, that's Rod Fazzari's station." And my mother encouraged me to call him that night, and it was one of those sort of God moments, I think, where God really does talk to you if you're listening, if you're open to Him.
Although Keith didn't have a background in radio, he began to pursue the dream of starting a Catholic station in Boise, Idaho. After 2 unsuccessful attempts to acquire a radio station, he was finally able to negotiate the price of one in Boise and one in Caldwell. Catholic radio then expanded to the Magic Valley, and it grew from there. Salt and Light Radio can now be heard on 1140 AM KGEM and 102.3 FM in Boise, 1270 AM KTFI in Twin Falls, 1340 AM in Wendell, and in Spanish on 1490 AM KCID in Caldwell and 1450 AM KEZJ in Twin Falls. These 5 AM Catholic radio stations and FM transmitter provide Catholic radio to listeners in the Treasure Valley and Magic Valley areas 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Salt and Light Radio is listener-supported, and their most essential fundraisers are semi-annual, on-air pledge drives, where they produce 3 days of live broadcasts featuring Idaho Catholic clergy and laity, who take turns at the microphone and ask for financial support of the stations. Donations from generous listeners and sponsors cover the costs of producing local programming, music licensing fees, electricity, and other expenses, including paying off the capital that was required to purchase the AM radio stations and the FM transmitter. The debt on this capital is gradually being retired with the help of financial supporters. In addition to the pledge drives, Salt and Light Radio seeks donations and business underwriters throughout the year.
What's been so amazing really about this apostolate from day one is that, every time we have needed some sort of resource, human resource, financial resource, it always has seemingly just shown up. And now usually it shows up at the last minute, right? I like to tell people God is kind of a 12th hour God, or 11th hour God, right? He comes, but He comes on His time, first of all, not yours, and He comes right when you think you can't wait any longer.
The Holy Spirit has guided Salt and Light Radio's leadership team to maintain a growing network of Catholic radio stations in Idaho. Listeners tune in during their driving time and other daily activities to find comfort and strength and to learn about the message of Jesus Christ and His Church.
One of the beautiful things about Catholic radio is that it's just always there in those in-between times. Pretty much everyone has to drive somewhere at some point. You might as well have Catholic radio on in your car, and then you're being fed spiritually.
When we do listen to Salt and Light, it is like being with family.
And it helps to fill those gaps between going to Mass on Sunday.
Yeah.
It gives you those pieces of faith throughout the week to help you make it through.
I started listening to Catholic radio a couple years ago at my wife's request. I learned so much more about the Catholic Church than I knew, and I'm a cradle Catholic. I am really impressed with Catholic radio. I highly recommend it to everybody. You'll learn more and more about the fullness of the Catholic Church and all it brings to us.
There is such a need for evangelizing and for teaching the faith. There is no end to the work in God's garden. And so I just would encourage people in whatever capacity you have to be able to share your faith and share your stories. We would love to hear from you, and we'd love to help get those stories on the air to encourage other people in their faith walk and their faith journey.
Join the community of Salt and Light Radio listeners and supporters today. Tune in to a local station or visit online at www.saltandlightradio.com.